What's going on, everybody? What's going on? Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's James Hollingsworth, the Working People's Podcast. I decided to come and do a live video because it's been like a month. Hey, gotta work. It's called the Working People's Podcast for a reason. But welcome to the Working People's Podcast. James Hollingsworth, your host, where everybody desires to build generational wealth and a financial legacy for their families. I'm streaming live on Facebook to my personal page, James Hollingsworth. I'm also streaming live to Facebook on the Working People's Podcast page, and we're streaming live to You of the Tube. YouTube. So if you're coming through, go ahead and throw us some likes and some hearts and drop a comment or a hello, a hand wave or something in the comment section. Let us know you're here. I'm going to quickly check the audio and make sure we're good there, because you know that's important. Got to make sure you got audio. What's going on? I got audio. I think. Let me make sure. Oh, yeah. Let me make sure. There we go. Yep. There we go. Yeah, I got audio. So, hey, if you're watching on Facebook here and you come through, like I say, throw us some likes, hearts, or something. Give us a hand wave down in the section. Today, I just kind of want to talk about, because I've been hearing a lot of things floating around about, becoming a millionaire and things like that. And you got to do something extraordinary. You got to do all this stuff. You got to be a business owner. You have to be, like born into a rich, wealthy family and stuff like that. And I just want to come on and have a conversation and get some perspectives, even from you, if you come through, on can everyday, regular, ordinary working people become millionaires? Personally, I believe yes, because a study I've alluded to a lot lately, in the past, I don't know, year or so, is the Dave Ramsey study that shows that 80% of the people, and they studied and surveyed over 10,000 millionaires, that 80% of them became millionaires just from investing in their 401k plan, and a third of them also invested in other things in conjunction with their 401k plans. And so you hear a lot, and you've heard a lot over the last, say, couple years, because of the recession and this economic downturn that we've been in, that you should throw away your 401ks, that you should, buy land, you should buy gold, you should do all of these fancy things in order to be able to generate some type of financial stability for yourself and for your family. And so I just wanted to have a discussion to find out what you think. Do you think that ordinary people, regular working people, in spite of the inflation numbers being high and eroding our cash flow from our incomes and all of these things that we're seeing that seems to be so negative, do you believe that ordinary, everyday working people can become or reach millionaire status? And if so, I want to hear from you what your perspectives on, well, how can you do it? I'm going to give my perspectives on how I believe we can do it. So if you're watching on YouTube, throw us some, thumbs up, and you can subscribe to the channel. It's free to do that. Helps to get the algorithm going on all social media platforms when you do press the like button. Amen. Hercules. So first, I want to do something. I want to quickly say, hey, I got a good friend of mine. He lives in New York. Shout out to you, Gabe. And Gabe was like, man, you should get you some Tom Ford. So I went to good old Macy's. I thought Macy's was, fancy. Macy's is just kind of ordinary. And I was like, hey, do y'all have Tom Ford? No, we don't have time for it. You got to order that. Well, I don't know if I'm gonna like it. If I order it, not order a particular fragrance I don't like. Anyway, the lady was like, "Well, because I told her, I say, well, I've tried this fragrance and I've tried that fragrance, Polo. I've tried this one, 1 million, blah, blah, blah." She's like, "Oh, 1 million has their new fragrance." I was like, "Really?" She's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." So I did pick up today a box of, if you can see it, 1 million. And it's the new fragrance called Royal. Right there, you can see it, Royal. And boy, I tell you, when she sprayed it on that little paper, I was like, Jig, clamp it. Hot diggity dog. It's like, that smells fantastic. So I bought a bottle, Paco Rabanne, 1 million. The new fragrance by Paco Rabanne it's called Royal. So hey, if you want to try it out, I guarantee you will not be disappointed. And shout out to my buddy Jeremiah, Jeremiah Warner, Jeremiah Warner, because Jeremiah, his cologne game be like on point. And every time you walk by him, shake his hand, give him the old bro shoulder hug. What's up? Jeremiah's cologne be on point. So I got to try to step my game up a little bit because, yeah, I don't just want to smell like Dove or Irish Spring or Zest. All right. So let's get to the point here. Can ordinary, regular, everyday working people become a millionaire? Can you reach millionaire status? And if so, how? How can you do it? So I want to say, first of all, let's look at just some things that I think we need to examine and really be conscious of. First of all, before you start really, diving into getting into investing, I think everybody needs to see how important it is. You need to have some emergency some emergency funds, 3, 6 months, 8 months, whatever. You need to have some emergency funds set aside, because if something happens or something comes up, you don't want to be dipping into your investments, and when you're just getting started, or in particular, and then you have to dip into them and take the money out, especially in a down market like we've been experiencing. But if you got some cash reserves, some extra emergency funds set aside, and something comes up, you got to repair something, fix something, or God forbid you happen to be one of the people that get laid off and you become unemployed or something, because that unemployment funds, that money not gonna do nothing for you. You feel me? So you'll at least have some emergency funds, and you won't have to liquidate your investment. So I think that's important. And secondly, I think it's important to have as minimum or low or no debt as possible, because debt can really erode and really get into your pockets, and kind of it can really erode your ability to grow your money and build wealth. And so I would really suggest that you consider, especially credit card debt, high interest loan debts, personal loans, things like that. They could really get into your ability to to grow your money through investing. But lately, if you've seen and noticed that we just got the latest Fed numbers in terms of what inflation was doing. So I'm going to share my screen with you real quick. And the numbers just came out, and the actual inflation for year to year, from the month of June to 2023, going back to June 2022. uh, you can see that look at that. It says that, Jane, you're now live. Can everyday working people become millionaires? Thank you for the notification. So the year to year inflation number came in at 3%. And last month, the numbers that came in from May 2023 for year to year was at 4%. So we came down a whole percentage point on year to year inflation. And then the core inflation number was at 5 point. Do I have that number? Yeah, it was at 5.3, and that number fell to 4.8. And core to core inflation is when you strip out food and strip out energy, and you have the core inflation number. This is probably a more important number to the Federal Reserve, because this really will measure the health and of the economy and the value of the dollar and things like that. And and how the economy's doing in a more broader spectrum and show a true indication of where we are. So core inflation fell from 5.3 to 4.8. So that's good. Housing costs, the overall median price of home and home sales decreased by 0.9% annually for June. And this has been the first decline seen in our data trend since, they say, history since 2017. I guess that's good. But on the other hand, the housing index, the shelter index, housing number percentage increased by 0.4%. So in some areas, you may see a decrease in like I don't know where that would be, but you may see in some areas, I would venture to say there might be rural areas or maybe areas that you typically wouldn't want to necessarily want to maybe live and move and raise your family. In those areas, they might have seen a slight decrease in shelter costs in terms of rents and stuff like that. But overall, especially in the larger markets, New York, LA, Houston, Atlanta, places like that, uh, there's they haven't seen any type of decrease in rental prices in terms of rent and stuff like that. So the shelter index did increase rather by 0.4%. So that number is still up. The index for lodging away from home decreased by 2% in June after increasing 1.8% in May, right? But the index for rent rose 0.5% in June. So overall, rent cost is still considerably high, and many people are feeling the crunch that are renting. And then, even though the median home prices fell by 0.9%, many people are still priced out of the housing market and being able to afford a home, especially with interest rates still being relatively high. And it is pretty much believed and been priced into the stock market that the Federal Reserve will probably, more than likely, I can probably say it's going to happen next week, I believe, or this week. They will probably raise the Fed funds interest rate by another 25 basis points. So we'll probably get at least another 25%, a 25 point basis point increase in the interest rate, short-term interest rate. And initially, when they paused in June, um, there was some talk that we would get probably two more interest rate hikes for the year of 2023. I've talked to some people; they believe it's not going to happen, but it quite possibly in September, depending on how the numbers come in for August, we could possibly get another 25 point basis point increase in the interest rate, short term interest rate. So yeah, that might happen. Uh, so when I talk to you about showing you the 3% year to year, you can see that reflected in this more the line here, the light line, the dotted line. You can see this is less food and energy. So this is the core inflation number, and it is at 4.8%. That's still pretty high from where the Fed wants it to be. And then this darker number, the blue solid number, this is the actual year to year, year over year inflation number, and it fell from 4% to 3%. So, but these here is the market is pretty unpredictable. It's difficult to, if not nearly impossible, to really predict on a short term basis what the market or the stock market will do and how it will perform per se, right? Because a lot of or how to even show how healthy the economy is, we have these numbers that come in, but these are all lagging indicators, right? So if you want to see where we're headed with inflation, you have to look at the previous 30 days or 31, 32 days, whatever, the previous month. So these are all lagging indicators that are really reflecting what's happening in the economy. So a lot of times it's difficult to really make any type of adequate predictions because anything can change at any moment. A war, or like we got the pandemic, or something that can happen that can cause a downturn in the economy, right? So these lagging indicators are oftentimes very difficult to predict. Hey, should I start investing now? Especially if you're trying to time the market. If you're trying to time the market using short-term indicators, it's going to be very difficult to do. And I'm going to show you why in a minute and give you an idea when I say, can ordinary regular people become millionaires? And I'm gonna tell you yes, and show you, how. But if you're trying to determine, well, I want to wait till the market maybe bottoms out, I want to wait till inflation comes down, and you're looking at these lagging indicator numbers, and you're looking at the price index for housing, something like that, and you decide, I'm going to wait till the Fed begins to lower interest rates, and I'm going to wait to see when the news reports that the economy is healthy, and then I'm going to begin investing in the stock market. You're going to miss your opportunity, and I'm going to show you why here in a minute. So look at this number here. So this is for the last 5 years for the S&P 500, right? So the last 5 years, the S&P 500, we closed out on what was that, Friday, 4,505.42. So the last 5 years, even though we went through some turbulent times in 2022 and 2021 was difficult, you can see the last 5 years have cumulative returns of over 60, slightly over 60%, right, in the last 5 years. So even though short-term lagging indicators are difficult to be able to determine when to time the market, should you start investing after things get better, and all of these different things, it's really, in my opinion, is bad to do that, because trying to time the market ultimately causes you to miss out on growth and potential um, returns, growth of your money. So you can see here over the last 50 years, the S&P 500 has had average annual returns of slightly over 10.5% over the last 50 years. So if 50 years ago you would have invested your money, would have grown over the last 50 years uh, annually. You would have had annual average returns of 10.5% on your money. And that's important to know, right? And the reason why that's important to know is because when you try to time the market and you say, I'm gonna wait till things get better, that's when you miss out on the potential growth of your money. Watch this. This here is a very important um, thing to examine and look at, right? So the S&P 500 average return from the bottom of every bear market since 1950. So the S&P 500, what have been the returns, right, immediately following the market bottoming out? And now we can't ever visually see when that is, right? Because the news or whatever is always reporting different things. And especially if you're personally experiencing some type of financial difficulties, you know, or you maybe was in a speculative investment, and so how you may have been affected, or you got downsized from your job from a layoff during a recession. Well, you're going to see things in that perspective, right? Of difficulty, of financial hardship, of money being tight. Maybe you were in some high interest loans, and then the cost of food and stuff started going up. So it just basically disrupted your whole monthly budget and the flow and your cash flow and what you were spending and how you were spending your money, right? So, but if you're trying to time the market and you're looking at these short-term indicators, and you're looking at what the Fed is doing with interest rates, and you're hearing the news about banks failing, and then you're hearing other people coming out saying that you should invest in gold, and you should do this, and you should do all these things. And see, I told you that's the reason why you shouldn't be investing in your 401ks, because look, you lost 20%, blah, 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 blah. But here's the thing. You can't, it's literally impossible to know when the market bottom out. Nobody knows when that was. Now we can always go back and see the numbers see the charts, the graphs, and we can see the data from last year, from the last 2 years, 3 years, right? So we can go back and look. But in real time, when it's actually happening, nobody knows when the market hit its bottom, right? But we do know from looking at previous historical data, right, from the last 50 years, that after the market bottom, right, 1 month after the market hit its bottom, which, like I say, when it's actually actively happening at the moment, we don't know what that bottom, where that bottom is. But looking back at historical data, last 50, since 1950, when the market bottomed out, 1 month after the market bottomed out, it had an average return for the first month after that of almost 15%, right? So if you extract and pull your money out and say, well, I'm just going to wait till things are over, I'm not going to invest. Look, almost 15%, 14.76 return in the in the um in right after the market bottoms in that successive first month, first 30 days, the market returns almost 15%, just like that. In 3 months, the market, after it bottoms out, and like I say, when this is actively happening, we don't know when this happened. We can only look back and see, oh, last year the market bottomed out at such a number, right? In 2009, the market bottomed out at 1,053 or whatever it was, right? We can go back and look at that. But when you're actively involved in investing and you get nervous and you panic and you pull your money out, the market bottoms. Well, the news is not being able to tell us, because when we see it in the news or we see it on CNBC or Fox News, it's old by the time the news reports it. So the market in that first month returns almost 15%. And in 3 months after it bottoms out, it returns over 21% in the first 3 months following when it bottomed out. Now imagine if you would do or would have done like I did in 2021, 2022. Actually, prior to that, I started doing it. I started bumping up all of my investment, in terms of what percentages I was putting in to different funds and different investments that I had. I saw the market bottom out and dip. We went into a recession. Everything started going bad. People started panicking. Well, when people panicked, I got excited. So I literally started increasing my dollar cost average numbers and what I was investing on a week to week and a month to month basis. Because I know that this is what happens whenever we go into a recessionary period, an economic downturn, or any type of thing like that. In the first 6 months, do you see this? In the first 6 months after the market bottoms out, it hits its bottom, it finds its support level. In the first 6 months, it returns 27.81%. Now, if you just keep investing through the downturn, the market will bottom out. We won't even know when that is. We won't even know when the market is recovering. But it starts bringing it comes back so fast that you're not able to time it. And the lagging indicators, by the time the numbers, they're always going to be lagging behind several months, showing that we're in recovery, right? So the first 6 months, if you would keep investing through the downturn, your money from the last 50 years, we can see what happened. It returned 27.81% on average for every time the market bottomed out. And then in the first 12 months, look at that, 43.51% in the first 12 months after the market bottomed out. But most of those gains from that 43% came in the first probably 3 months. Yeah. over half in the first 3 months. And in the first 24 months, after the market hit its bottom, found its new support level, and began to make its upward move in the first 24 months over the last 50 years, we have the data that shows the market returned 62 and a half, slightly over 62.5%. I don't know about you all. I know some of this stuff be sounding boring because making money, the people that's really financially, they're striving to be financially independent and things like that. The stuff that it takes to become financially independent is boring. It's not exciting to talk about. It's not as exciting as talking about, hitting big on crypto or dollar or day trading, which those things are more difficult to do, and you got to have skills if you're talking about day trading. So don't let nobody convince you that you can just day trade, wake up one morning and decide to be a day trader. It's just not going to happen, right? So I shared a few days ago, let me see if I can find that real quick. Yeah, I want to find that because it's on my Facebook page. So let me find that. Let me find it. It's right. Here it is. Here it is. Let's pull this up because this is important. So let's see if I can make this bigger. Yeah. Oh, no. See, hold up. I can't do it. Sorry. So here we go. So can I make that bigger? No. Can't do it. So on July 12th, I made this Facebook post and I talked about a couple funds or a few funds that's in my personal portfolio, right? Year to date, as of July 11th, 2023, the Vanguard Institutional Index, Institutional Plus Fund had returned year to date 16.4% from January the 1st, 2023 to July 11th, 2023. That same fund is now from July 11th to today's date when the market closed yesterday on, that would have been what, the 13th? That same fund was up over 18%, almost 19%, right? Investing through the downturn and recessionary periods and recessionary phases, right? This other portfolio in account number 2, this other portfolio that year to date was 12.36%. Market closed on Friday. This same portfolio on account number 2, year to date 12.36% as of July 11th. Close of business day on Friday. The same portfolio was up 15, almost 16% year to date. So it's important to continue to invest during the downturn. And one of the recommendations that people often make, and I think is a great, a really good and great thing to do, and you can do it yourself, right? Open up a brokerage account, invest in a mutual fund or an ETF. Find an ETF through a brokerage account, and you can dollar cost average into it and begin investing into it. One of them that tracks the S&P 500, right? Find you an index, S&P index type ETF, and just invest in that, because as I showed you, 50-year historical data. Well, let's go back to the 5-year first. 5-year historical data on the S&P 500. The last 5 years, we've had cumulative returns of slightly over 60, almost 61% for the last 5 years. And the average annual return for the previous 50 years in the S&P 500 has been 10 and a half, slightly over 10.5%. So that was through 2008 when we had all of that debacle that happened with the housing and all of that. This was through what was it, Black Monday, bloody Friday, it was through all these really negative investing days that we had over the years, right? So it's important that you don't panic and become afraid, because money needs time to grow. The time value of money needs time to grow and compound. And as it grows and compound, it needs time. And you need 5 to 7 years minimum, right? Typically, to even see some type of growth, unless you hit big on something, right? And you see some immediate returns or whatever. But it takes time, unless you start with a lump sum. It takes time, if you're dollar cost averaging, for your money to grow, and you begin to see, oh man, look at how my money's compounding. And the rule of 72's compound interest at 15%, money doubles every 4.8 years. At 12%, money doubles every 6 years. And at like 9%, money doubles every 8 years. It compounds, it doubles, and it grows, right? If you hit 12%, which is slightly off the 10 and a half from that 50-year annual returns of the S&P 500, every 6 years, whatever principal amount that you've been investing, if you hit 12%, your money will double every 6 years, right? So if you have a 12-year timeline and investment horizon, you could potentially double your money twice in that time frame if you're able to average that 12% return. And that's just how it is. I mean, it's something that um, you really need to get serious about, right? And one of the things is, why is it that people, when they do invest, they get enamored, they get real uh, glowing eyes over hearing about these stories about people hitting big on really speculative investments? And so, just from somebody telling them, did you hear about, GameStop, or did you hear about this or that? You know, people just want to try to make that fast, quick money. And investing is not like that, right? It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So if you're into speculative investments, if you know what you're doing and you've really studied and you've really spent the time that it takes to become knowledgeable, to each his own, right? When it comes to crypto, when it comes to Forex, when it comes to some of those types of more speculative and difficult things to be able to invest in. Look, this, what I'm talking about, is set it and forget it. It's just that simple. DCA, dollar cost average. You take a specific amount of money, and every week or every 2 weeks or every month, that's the more popular way of doing it, right? Every month, you set it and forget it. Automatic draft comes out of your checking account, goes into your brokerage, into your investment, and bam, goes right into the ETF, right? That tracks the S&P 500. And you do this for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years. And I know the gurus, some of these people would tell you, why would you want to wait that long and do that, this, that, and the other? Look, if everything else falls apart, nothing works, the business doesn't succeed, you lose your investment in the business, this, that, and the third, and nothing else works, you've at least laid a foundation for yourself and for your family by taking some of your resources, your discretionary income, and just being boring, being basic, but just fundamentally sound, dollar cost average every month into an ETF that tracks the top companies in America, 500 companies in America, blue chip, typically blue chip, large cap companies. Boom. Back in the day in the 90s, when mutual funds was just kind of coming around and becoming big, a lot of y'all won't remember about the American Century, the Vista, and the Ultra, and some of those Somebody might have, as I said, those names, somebody might say, yeah, I remember the American Century Funds, Vista and Ultra and those things, right? Back in those days, you used to really be, I mean, first of all, you couldn't Google nothing because we didn't have the internet and stuff like that. You had to read Barron's magazines. You had to buy magazines and read Barron's and see all the data, right? Or you had to call the investment company, T. Rowe Price or Vanguard back then, American Century, whoever. You had to call the company and get the prospectus on a particular fund or two, whatever you was looking at potentially investing in. But you was getting a lot of your data from like newspapers, but all of this stuff was lagging indicators. It was old news. It was, past performance stuff, whether it was the last year to date or whether it was what the fund did last quarter or what it did the last 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. We did a lot of looking at 10-year returns back then. And they kind of gave you an ideal. You're looking at how long the fund manager had been, the manager of the account, the mutual fund. But then you had to kind of set your own portfolio up, growth accounts, but that were large cap growth or fixed index, which we typically kind of stayed away from those unless you were kind of looking to get into, like income producing stuff. But a lot of times you would need more money when you start getting into stuff like that. But like the small cap tech stuff and different stuff that was invested in maybe different particular sectors. Tech was really a big one back then. But large cap growth funds, that was a big one. 20 years, you were looking at a 20-year investment horizon, right? Automatically right off riff when you was thinking about investing in those mutual funds back then. And so, but now it's a lot easier because you could do it right from do it yourself from a brokerage account. You could dollar cost average right into an ETF, which is the same as a mutual fund. And it's a lot easier. You can bypass going through the mutual fund company, having it taken right out of your, checking account, getting the prospectus, sent to you in the mail. That's the old way of doing it, right? Nowadays, you could just do it right through a brokerage account online, do it yourself, set it up, same day, few days later, you ready to go, having your first draft come out, boom, and you're good to go. But this get rich quick, ideal, and thinking that you're gonna hit big and all that stuff, man. Look, you got to get back to practical, be disciplined, be patient, right? Like Warren Buffett said, the stock market is the venue. I'm paraphrasing how he said it. That takes the money and transfers it from the impatient to the patient. You got to be patient and you got to be willing to be disciplined to do the same thing over and over again. You got to be real structured, right? And so that's the way to build wealth, right? And you diversify. You might pick up a tech fund or an international fund. That was another one back in the day, the mutual funds. You would look through the list, Barron's, Kiplinger's, Investors Business Daily, the newspaper, which was a great resource. But that's how we used to do it back then. And now everything is a lot easier and it's more I don't want to say dummified, but it's more condensed down for just you could just pick one. You could literally just go in, almost look at the 10-year return numbers, be like, oh, it's green. I think I'll just pick that one. And it says it tracks the S&P 500. And you can look at the 10-year returns of the S&P 500, the 10-year returns on that particular ETF, and be like, hey, I'm just going to set it and forget it. $100 a month, $250 a month, whatever the case may be. And then you just ride with it for the next 15, 20 years. And there you go. And you could always switch out of that fund if it's underperforming with your particular. I don't know. Hey, back in the day, if I wasn't getting 15%, I wasn't investing in it. That was my personal. I was very aggressive. I'm still a pretty aggressive investor. But back then, that was it. And I know like 15. Yes, I was looking to get 15% minimum, whatever I was investing in. I was looking for 15% return, right? Because I know that I could double my money in less than 5 years, averaging 15%, right? So that's my perspective. And I know that it works, right? There's too much evidence out there that shows that it works. Now, naturally, you know the disclaimer, the disclosure statement is past performance is not indicative or a predictor of future, performance or future outcomes, right? But you can help even manage your risk better when your dollar cost averaging, and just find you an ETF that tracks the S&P 500, something that you feel comfortable with. Read the data on it, and boom, go and then set it and forget it, and stay living beneath your means. I know it sounds boring. Yes, it sounds boring, but more people have reached millionaire status doing that and buying real estate than they have all of these other get rich quick stuff that we see, and we get excited when we hear somebody stand up and tell their story about how they became rich in a week. How they became wealthy in a week. Oh my God. And I saw some I got to get the percentage. I want to get the percentage because I think it's important if I find the percentage, the actual data and percentage, but I haven't found the data and the percentage number. But I do know that um there's data that shows the reason why it's so difficult to build generational wealth. Hear this, people. Hear this. Is because even most times, most millionaires are first generation. Since Thomas Stanley and William Danko wrote The Millionaire Next Door back in, what was it, 1996? It has still been the case since 1996 that most millionaires are first generation. Do you know why? Because by time, whatever money that you have, you leave it to your kids, and then your kids leave it to their kids. Sometimes it don't even reach your grandkids, because quite often the principles and the things that got that person there in that first generation to millionaire status, when we pass it on to the next generation, a lot of times that money is lost through whatever, I don't know if it's speculative investments, spending, whatever the case may be. The money is often, by the time the grandchildren, the third generation comes, the money is gone. And the fourth or fifth generation, third generation, grandkids, they're starting all over again from scratch. That's why since 1996, we've seen consistently the same number, that like 80% of millionaires are first generation millionaires. That number's been the same. What's this, almost 30 years or what? I'm terrible with math. 96, 2006, 16. Yeah, for like the last 30 plus years. And so we have to make sure that the preceding or the next generations, they understand certain money management, have certain money management skills. They understand certain core principles of finance. Because if they don't understand it, it's very difficult to build generational wealth. There's people right here in the city, here in Michigan. A lot of you may remember the turkey barn. Well, you can Google and read the old man who owned the turkey farm. Sorry. They had a couple of locations, great food, turkey burger, great food, right? Great product, very sustainable business. The old man died. And so after he died, the children couldn't carry on the business. We see that happening frequently, right? So everything, the legacy that this man built up with the turkey farm, it's gone, right? Okay, what about Big Al's? Some of you all may remember Big Al's barbecue. They had several. I remember before I moved to Michigan and I would come here and visit, that was a place I would have to go. We got to go by Big Al's, the barbecue joint, Big Al's barbecue. And boom, boom. But then after Big Al, after the old man died, the children and the descendants struggled to keep the business going and keep the product consistent, to keep the food and everything. And so now there are no more Big Al's. Big Al's is gone, right? So quite often the children don't have the skills and the acumen to be able to carry on with the business and to make sure that the legacy carries on from generation to generation. But you can see it with Walmart, with Sam Walton and the Walton family, right? Because they had to train their children how to take on and carry on, right? And be the was successors to carry on the legacy of the business. So even if it's not a business per se, and it's just the legacy of resources and money and wealth that you're leaving behind, that's why with me, I've set some things in place through a trust that this is how this is going to happen. And I'm making sure that what I have makes it to 4 generations. But the struggle is I want to make sure that my descendants understand the legacy and understand what's being put in their hand and how they can make it grow, right? There is no reason why. Oh God, this is hurting. This is hurting. But there is no reason why, and it shouldn't be, why we can't maintain wealth when it's passed to us, that we can pass it on to the next generation. And each generation should be able to make it compound and grow. But if the third generation have to keep starting over and over again, this is why it is so extremely difficult to pass wealth from generation to generation, because we don't pass on the knowledge, the skill set. I made a Facebook post a few days ago. Yeah, it's boring again. But just like earning money is a skill set, also spending money, which includes managing money, it's a skill set and it needs to be developed. And you have to study and plan. Because if you don't, your money will never make it to your grandchildren. And if you want to follow biblical principle to say a wise man, right? A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. If they don't know what to do with it and they don't have the knowledge and the skill set, right? Then that money may not even make it to them. But as I've said, I am making sure that I put certain things. Hey, what's that movie? What's the movie? Let me see if I can find this. Let me find this. Remember the name of it. The Ultimate Gift. Yes, The Ultimate Gift. I am making sure I am like the old man in The Ultimate Gift. I am going to make sure, look, this is what we're leaving to you, but these are certain things that's in place. This is going over here and it's going to be set there. You'll get this, but this is going here. You have to do this to get this. These are the stipulations. And then passing it from the next generation and setting up a board. And there's already the executors are in place, the attorneys in place, the financial advisor, their committee is going to be in place. And all they have to do is just put me, in a box or wherever I'm going. That's it. But all the other things, they'll get a phone call. Hey, this is everything passes automatically, goes into the trust. Everything is going to be in order to try to avoid my descendants from fumbling the bag. And far too often, we fumble the bag. I've shared with you, I think it's blackdemographics.com. I think, yeah, that's where I got that data from. Blackdemographics.com shows that if you are Black or Hispanic, Latino, after you reach the age of 40, you only have a 4% chance that you will become a millionaire. Because quite often, the habits that we've formed that causes us to not experience the wealth and building and growing the wealth, those habits are now so ingrained in us, it's difficult for us to change or to adjust and be flexible and modify our habits and our thinking, because wealth is a mindset, but so is poverty. So therefore, current statistical data shows that if you're Black or if you're Hispanic or Latino, we only have a 4% probability or chance after you reach the age of 40 that you will experience wealth or have anything substantial financially to be able to pass to your descendants, to your children, and to your children's children. And if you do get there, will they know what to do with the resources that you're leaving them? Will they have the aptitude, the skill set, the knowledge, the understanding, the same acumen and the same um, financial tools to manage the resources to make them grow to from generation to generation, so that your family will truly have a legacy? One day, my grandchildren and my great grandchildren will be called into the executors of the estate, call them in and say, here is the inheritance that's been left to you by your grandfather and your great grandfather. And hopefully the descendants prior to them will have already prepared them to manage everything. Yes. What up, Jeremiah? Jeremiah, did you hear my shout out? You hear my shout out, Jeremiah? Shout out to Jeremiah. Jeremiah behave. Jeremiah, I'm going to come in strolling pretty. I'm going to be strolling real slow in the morning at church, and I'm going to walk by you real slow. I'm going to spray so much of this stuff on, it's going to smell like I took a bath in it. Old ladies going to be choking and struggling trying to breathe because I'm going to have so much. No, I'm just playing. I'm gonna have so much of it on. I'm gonna have so much of it on. I'm gonna walk down the hall, and the children's ministry that's down way down the hall over there, kids gonna start. No, I'm just kidding. Oh my God. No, I'm not gonna do that though. But let me get back to the point. We have to make sure that our descendants are prepared, and we have to do the things necessary to get to that point. And not investing should not even be an option. Not investing should not be an option. And I think 10% should be the bare minimum. But at this point, folks, we got to see that these things are reaching critical mass. 20%, 25% should be the bare minimum of what we're investing. Pay yourself a car note. Come on. Pay yourself a car note. Because if you back to back, every time you pay off a car, we get so dissatisfied with the one we just paid off, we go and get another one. And sometimes we don't even wait that long. We still have money that we owe on this one, and we just roll it over because they'll be like, hey, we'll roll that $7,000 that you still owed on that last loan into this one. And it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And for 15, 20 years, car payment after car payment after car payment, but you haven't paid yourself a car payment for that same length of time because it's boring. And all of these other crazy ideals and way of thinking that we have. So we won't pay ourselves a car note, but we'll keep paying. I ain't gonna say no names because I don't want to get in trouble. All these different people We'll keep paying these financial institutions and all these people interest on loans, but we won't grow our own interest on our investments that will compound for the next 20 years, 25 years, for some of you, 30 years or 40 years. Literally, if you start when you're 20 years old, you could become a multimillionaire before you reach age 65. If you take some of your earned income and pay yourself first and put it towards your future. Please, ma'am. Please, sir. It's important. Can ordinary, everyday people become millionaires? Can they reach millionaire status? Because in spite of what you may think, everybody don't have the ability to be entrepreneurs. And many people that are, they're not making the kind of money that could be life sustainable or changeable. Most businesses fail within the first 5 years anyway. And then the ones that survive to turn a profit, sometimes the numbers and data shows that it takes 15 years for some businesses to even turn a profit, sustainable profit. And the 20-year mark, to reach 20 years, and then to pass that business on to your descendants, right? If you do reach to a place where you got a sustainable, thriving, functional business that really can, sustain you and give you resources enough to pass. I mean, you know what I'm saying? But this idea that people could just randomly run out here and be an entrepreneur, man, stop it. Stop it. And this idea that everybody that gets in real estate is making money, stop it. I'm trying to tell you, a lot of people lose money in real estate, especially when they don't properly understand leveraging and the difference between risk tolerance and risk capacity, because it is a huge difference between the two: risk tolerance and risk capacity. And if you don't understand risk capacity and you leverage yourself to get into real estate and all this other stuff, and you face the slightest hiccup or a bump in the road, many people lose fortunes. Why do you think Dave Ramsey has become so famous and popular? Because he did it and lost everything. And now he is adamant against debt and all the other things. Because if you don't properly understand risk capacity and you think it's the same as risk tolerance, because you're aggressive and you have a high risk tolerance, you can over leverage yourself real quick. And most people that really get into real estate, they look, I'm trying to tell you, I'm trying to hope you. Just because you hear the success stories, don't think that everybody is. And some of the people that have done well, let them tell you some of the mistakes that they made and how they were able to survive it. But if you don't understand proper leveraging and understand risk capacity, it ain't as easy as you think going out here and jumping in and buying real estate, being an entrepreneur, and all these different things. Don't let luck replace sound, fundamental, foundational wisdom. I am about to go. I don't even know how long I've been on. And I hope, once again, that we've said something to hope you. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Get quick, getting rich quick. Look, get it out your mind. Go to the basic, boring stuff of just consistently investing your money. Lay the foundation, build the pyramid, right? And build your foundation. That foundation has multiple components. Maybe one day I'll do a video to talk about the multiple components of a financial plan in order to put it in place that is something that can be suitable for leaving a legacy for your family, where they won't fumble the bag, right? and there are different. There are many components. It's not a. I don't want to say a one-stop shop, but it's not a cookie cutter. It's not a do it this way type of thing, right? Everybody's financial situation is different because their risk tolerance is different, their income's different, their discretionary income's different. There's a lot of different factors and components, right? That goes into making up a financial plan, but it still remains constant among all, right? That one of the ways to do it is just simply investing and seeing your employer as your first business partner and taking some of your earned income and making sure that you pay yourself first. Pay yourself a car note. Will you do that? Will you do that for yeah, will you do that for a brother? Will you pay yourself a car note? Come on now. Come on. Will you just pay yourself a car note and do it for 20, 25, 30 years? It's not too late. If you're older, it's not too late to get started. It's never too late to get started. It's only too late to get started if you never start. But your greatest friend in investing is time, because it takes money time to compound and to grow. And you have to build up enough volume where that volume begins to now work for you. Your money begins working for you just like you used to work for it, right? And truly, there comes a time, if you do it, as I'm telling you, it's important to do, there will come a time when you can truly live off the interest. And there are methods of having safe withdrawal systems in place where your money can still grow while you're living off the interest. Are you ready for that conversation? Your money can literally still continue to grow at certain specific uh, safe withdrawal amounts where you can live off the interest and your principal, even though after you've long depleted your principal, the money is still growing and increasing as you continue to live off the interest. Hallelujah. Thank you. Let the quiet church say amen. But I gotta go. I gotta go. Hey, if you have been watching on YouTube, uh, uh and you want to support the channel, go ahead and press that subscribe button, press the notification bell. You'll be notified when we do upload new videos, new content, and everything like that. And help the algorithm for people that need to hear this information. Share with your family and friends, but help the algorithm by leaving a like and maybe dropping a comment below. Same thing here on Facebook, on my personal page, Working People's Podcast page as well. Drop a comment. That'll help with the algorithm. Press the thumbs up like button. That really helps with the algorithm to share this information with more people. You can also just share this information. That's one of the features I like on these social media platforms. You can share it, send a direct messenger, whatever, to one of your family, friends, Uncle Pookie, your nephews. Send it to your cat and your dog. Let them watch it too, right? So share this video with your friends, with somebody, and drop a thumbs up, like button, hearts on the video, and also drop some comments. It helps with the algorithm on Facebook and on YouTube. But I gotta go. Hey, until next time, this has been James Hollingsworth, your host on the Working People's Podcast, where everybody desires to build generational wealth and a financial legacy for their family. And I'm out.